But it first comes down to the idea of just respect for people as individuals, but also just respect for everything around you, like the land, your belongings, people, of course, your own emotions, respecting yourself. The other part of it comes down to responsibility, right? Taking accountability of your actions, how you treat, like I said, how you treat the land, how you treat your own home, how you treat your friends and family, your business relationships, all that kind of stuff. So for me, Pono always comes back to simply just ultimately being a responsible, respectful, and just good human being.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the HiRealty podcast. We're coming to you from Aloha For Now Studios in beautiful Kaka'ako. And this episode is brought to you by the Hawaii Institute of Real Estate, pushing real estate literacy for all, and also creative building solutions. We don't have a tagline for that too, but construction and restoration work, custom design, all available to you through Creative Building Solutions, Hawaii. Our guest today is Ridge Vuong from Title Guaranty. And we actually met on the basketball court many moons ago, but didn't know it. Ridge was a guest at our Hawaii Institute of Real Estate pre-licensing course multiple times, most recent probably 3 weeks ago. And Ridge, I just want to give you a second to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you so much, Kaleo, for having me. So I guess just to start off, like Kaleo mentioned, we met through basketball. I'm a big basketball fan. I met a lot of great agents and everybody and a lot of friends through that. So that's how our relationship started. But just a little bit about me. So I've been in the real estate industry about 5.5 years now. In terms of title and escrow, I've been on it 3 years. I just recently got promoted to being my own escrow officer.
Congratulations.
Kind of going in reverse. Previously to all of this, coming out of college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. My uncle linked me up with a family friend of mine, and he's the one that kind of got me into the real estate industry. Went to UH Manoa for college, majored in economics. Went to Roosevelt High School, class of 2012. Just your regular born and raised Hawaii kid, just trying to make it out here, trying to be on this podcast, educate people, provide a service, and just, as you say, be a Pono person, right?
Yeah. We'll go into that a little later. What is involved in an economics degree? Like what? I was a communication major, so is there a lot of numbers? What is that?
So the whole thing about like economics and everything like that is most people think when they think economics is like the stock market, money, et cetera, things like that. By the textbook definition, economics is the study of how people allocate their limited resources to satisfy their unlimited wants. So essentially, in a way, it's not just about money. It could be any of your resources. So how you allocate your time, how you allocate even like your love, your money, of course, et cetera, things like that. So it's essentially actually more of a social science of how people basically make decisions.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so like I said, a lot of times people just kind of see it on the surface and think like stock prices, et cetera, things like that. But if you want to talk about like the stock market, for example, of how that relates is every day people buy and sell stocks, right? How do people make those decisions? Maybe your friend told you, oh, dude, you should totally buy this stock. I think it's totally going up. Or you read somewhere on an article, or maybe you went on Reddit and you went on Wall Street Bets and some guy just told you to put $100,000, into this penny stock. Maybe that's where you got it, right? But all of it comes down to your decision making. Whatever you think is the right, I guess, financial decision for your resources. In this case, your money, right? So,
wow. Would you say that plays a factor at all in your career as a escrow officer?
For sure, without a doubt. I think that's another reason why I even got hired at Title Guaranty. So in terms of my career, of course, like take the real estate market, for example, in general, it's a very economic, principle-driven business, right? Because whether or not you're buying a dream home or whether you're buying an investment, it's a large financial commitment, as anybody that knows real estate understands. And so a lot of times, just like everybody's talking about the market, right? The interest rates, where's the market going? That's all economics, right?
Yeah.
And based on how you think the market's going with like the interest rate, based on what what information you're providing to your clients, they have to make a decision. And so coming back to escrow, it's kind of the same way because our business is based off of the agent's business, right? So we need to make decisions on, okay, how are our agents or how are our lenders feeling? Like, how is their confidence? What are their clients saying? And then we need to structure essentially our services around that. Right. So I would say it definitely helps a lot. And something that I tried to provide too, and this is kind of just my little tidbit, a lot of times my agents might have questions of like, hey, Ridge, what are you seeing from other transactions, et cetera, things like that. Because respectfully, unless you're some really crazy top producing agent, especially in this market, deals are unfortunately few and far in between. But us at Escrow, it's kind of the same way, but we have business coming in from different agents, et cetera, things like that. So a good escrow officer maybe might have 10 to 20 escrows, right? And they might be able to tell you, right? Like if you were to come and ask me, hey, Ridge, what are you mostly seeing, right? And then I could tell you, well, so far this month I've had, 15 escrows. A lot of it is investors and like cash deals. Everybody's really afraid of like the interest rate and like going, getting a loan, et cetera, things like that. And a lot of people can't qualify.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's another way that I guess economics drives the business and escrow in general. And like I said, something I try to provide to do is when my agents come and ask me, hey, Ridge, what are you seeing from the markets? What is other agents telling you, et cetera, things like that. Like that's kind of my little extra service to kind of give the agents that want to work with me a little more insight on what is going on in the market.
Yeah. So good. How many languages do you speak?
So currently, of course, we're speaking in English, so that's one. I speak Japanese to a semi-fluent or above conversational level. I studied about 4 years of Japanese through high school and college. And actually right now I am learning Mandarin Chinese. Still very, very preliminary. I've took about 3 classes of Mandarin Chinese with my tutor for the past about month. So I would say like the conversational part of like just interpersonal conversation is building over there. And then the next step that I'm trying to work with my tutor on in the next 2 to 3 months is more stuff on like the professional level, et cetera, things like that. But I think anybody that studied another language knows that it's really just about all the practice you put into it.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you can sit down in a class and learn everything you need to know about a language, but if you don't ever put it in practice, you don't ever go talk to anybody or you don't ever use it, you're going to lose it.
Yeah.
Right? Use it or lose it, right?
Yeah. I wish I was a polyglot. I studied Spanish on the computador with Rosetta Stone. But do you speak Thai?
So I actually do not.
How do you have a Thai restaurant?
So I guess trying to keep the story of the Thai restaurant short. So
Okay.
my family actually, for the most part, has always kind of been in the restaurant industry. There's different family members own different restaurants on the island. So for those of you that know Mama Pho in Aina Haina
Yep.
and Almoana, that is my aunt, my dad's younger sister.
Oh, she's mama.
Yeah, she's the mama. Mama Denise, or if for those who know her Vietnamese name, I call her Auntie Nu. Lovely lady, very, very business smart, very, very intelligent woman. Chopsticks and Rice is my dad's younger brother, my Uncle
wow.
Hong. He, for those of you that know my Uncle Hong, he is a really good golfer. I'm trying to pick up on golf too. He's like really good. He also kind of got me into basketball as like a child.
Nice.
And he's the guy, I kind of get my mouth on the basketball court from him. For those very few that are watching that know, I kind of get my mouth from him on the basketball court. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, so the Thai restaurant that we actually have I actually got it tattooed on me over
Nice.
here. Our logo, Thai Bistro Suksabai in Aiea. So the way it came about is my mom's sister-in-law, she owns Thai Isan in Market City. For those that don't know, it's a small Thai restaurant in the Market City shopping center in Kaimaki. And it was actually her second location out in Aiea. And just like most of us, Father Time catches up to us. She wanted to retire, downsize a little bit. And so just like with the whole real estate thing, coming out of college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I had previous manager and restaurant experience from my college jobs, et cetera, things like that. And my parents were like, "Hey, Ridge, do you want to come in as a business partner with us, help run the restaurant, and we'll kind of cut you in on the profits, et cetera, things like that." And I was like, "Sure, why not?" Because to be honest, back when I was working some of my college restaurant jobs, you can call it a little bit of ego, but some of the management was just not all that great. And I remember telling some of my fellow colleagues and even my best friend who I worked with at the time, I told him, "Dude, I could run a restaurant better than these people can."
Wow.
And then I obviously told my parents that, and they kind of just put me to the test and they're like, "Ridge, put your money where your mouth is." And I'm definitely one of those people, like, I thrive in challenges, and I definitely, I like that chip on the shoulder, I like being challenged. So yeah, so that's kind of how it really came about. And it's been going on about 7 years.
So are you do you run the numbers for the restaurant, or what's the
So
being an economics major, right? Is that a big part of your contribution to the operation, or?
No, it for sure is. So I guess originally, just like, with any business, and you already know with your own business, when you first start off and, you need to get the ball rolling, you're there like every single day doing a lot of the operational stuff, et cetera, things like that. And that's what I was for sure doing in the beginning of my time at the restaurant. Now more so with the blessing from up above and all the people that support my restaurant, it essentially for the most part runs on its own with just a little bit of rotational management between me and my parents. But now, like you just mentioned, a lot of my work has come in like the back office side now.
Okay.
So I do run the numbers. I do talk with my parents about how like the foot traffic is, events going on in the neighborhood, and kind of giving that like economic touch, so that way we can obviously have the right amount of employees and the right amount of staff in the restaurant at the time to help it run efficiently. So that's definitely something that I do. A lot of the back office stuff, because my parents, respectfully, they're immigrants. My parents both graduated from high school, but they don't really have any formal college education really. And technically English is their second language.
Yeah.
They built a lot of what we have on just a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of heart. So a lot of the compliance stuff, a lot of this legal stuff with like health inspection and just all those like rules and regulations with the state and stuff like that, I kind of basically manage that for them, because that's kind of why I'm in escrow. I'm good at reading, I guess, good at reading, good at comprehending. So that's kind of the work that I mostly do for the restaurant. So a lot of the back office work, literally, I can say a little bit of the legal stuff per se, not really like I'm an attorney or something, but just kind of reading through like the legal documents. And of course, like running the numbers and giving my parents some insight on different trends and stuff like that. And even getting them to invest in a little bit of like the marketing and like social media and things like that. 'Cause we all know that TikTok, Instagram, all that kind of stuff is like huge right now, right? So,
are you guys on TikTok as a restaurant?
We are not yet. Something that I have been talking to my sister about, because my sister is more privy to that. My sister, she's a wonderful young lady, but something that I am trying to get to do is for like the Instagram and TikTok stuff is a lot of people are like customers at least are, what's like the secret? Like, Rich, can you give me the secret sauce? What's in the pad thai? What's in the curry? And I'm like, I can't tell you exactly what's in it, or else it wouldn't be a secret. But what I do want to do is kind of like with the education portion is, even though I want people to still come into the restaurant, et cetera, things like that, is to show people how to make the Thai food.
Nice.
Like, and of course, like we might start selling the sauces and stuff like that, so that way you can maybe make it at home in case you can't make it out to the restaurant. But a lot of times I know with this new kind of generation and like the times that we're in, people are a lot more like health conscious,
right,
et cetera, things like that. You have, vegan diets, like keto, like all this kind of stuff. And a lot of our food actually, for the most part, and I can make a testament to it, is relatively healthy compared to, respectfully, some of the other food options out there. And we do have a lot of great vegan and dietary like options for people that have dietary restrictions, whether they're like allergic to nuts, or whether they just like, maybe they're just like me and they just really don't like, I don't like tomatoes and bean sprouts, for example. So we keep our food relatively healthy, and at the same time we try to keep everybody's health choices in mind. And so by making like the TikTok and like the Instagram and showing people how to cook, it gives these people options on how they can make relatively affordable, good food, right? Because a lot of times the narrative around it is like, oh, like it's not real meat, it doesn't taste good, or you can't make like a really good vegan Thai dish or something like that. And I think that's like totally incorrect.
I heard a rumor that the secret ingredient in pad Thai is ketchup. I'm not going to ask about your pad Thai, but do people put ketchup in pad Thai?
I don't think that's really a secret. Anybody that has cooked pad Thai knows that ketchup is both the secret and a staple to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
I've never made pad Thai.
yeah, no, because a
Boom.
lot of times
You're welcome.
it really is the secret to it, because the ketchup, as most people know what ketchup tastes like, it has like that kind of like sweet and like tangy flavor. Right.
Vinegar.
And, yeah. And so, and it provides like that acidity a little bit to it. Right. So it's just, it has, the thing about pad Thai for most people that know is pad Thai, kind of the same way with ketchup, has a very nice balance between sweet and savory. Right. And so that's why ketchup is a very good, well, actually, let me rephrase. It's a very good staple. It is a staple in pad Thai.
So, pause. If there's no ketchup, is it still pad Thai? Is it that integral to the plate, where if there's no ketchup in it, it's no longer pad Thai? Would you say that?
So, if you've ever been to Thailand, of course, like ketchup in Thailand and places in Asia is a lot more scarce than it is here in America.
Okay.
I can't tell you the secret replacement to ketchup. If you want to know that, then you should just come work at Thai Bistro. Then I'll tell you. But in reality, people in Thailand, or at least like very traditional Thai cooks, do not use ketchup. Ketchup is a staple for, like, I guess you could say, Americanized pad Thai.
Yeah, just like you don't go to China to eat orange chicken.
Yeah, you don't go to China to eat orange chicken. Not to say that if you put ketchup in, it's not authentic. It's just, like I said, it's a very, very good substitute for certain ingredients in Thailand that most people would have, or not even be able to get here in the Americas.
Wow. Did you learn something today? Back office learned something today. So I guess my concern eating at a Thai restaurant would be like, are we using ketchup with high fructose corn syrup? I know that's getting too deep into the details. High fructose corn syrup and sugar, and as someone who recently hired a nutritionist, I'm trying to watch what I'm putting in my body, and so it gets a little more difficult when you're eating out. But what are your thoughts on, just real quick, what are your thoughts on seed oils?
On seed oils?
Yeah.
So, like I said, we at, or at least at my restaurant, like I said, we're not perfect, health conscious, like people. Like it's not like, like that we don't use like salt or like fish sauce or something. I just believe that there's like a fine balance between everything. But to come to your question about like seed oils, we pretty much only use olive oil for
what?
That
is amazing.
Yeah, for all of our cooking. We do not use peanut oil, or because we know people have like a lot of like allergic reactions, etc., things like that. And we mostly stuck with the olive oil just because it's it's one of those seed oils that just really, like, most people like have no issues with, no allergies to, and obviously like the health benefits of it, of course, etc. Things.
I'm
like that.
sold. The name of your restaurant again?
Thai Bistro Suksabai in the Pearl Kai Shopping Center in Aiea.
Okay.
98199 Kamehameha Highway, Suite CO2, 2 stores down from Baskin Robbins, Aiea, Hawaii, 96701.
That is amazing. Just because of that. Olive oil? Yeah, I'm there. Okay, so aside from a restaurateur, would you call yourself a restaurateur? or is that being too maybe generous?
Um,
You're an investor, business owner, investor. Yeah.
The thing about it is, Kaleo, even though I would say I'm pretty good at speaking and I don't mind talking in front of people and I like meeting people, there is a part of me that is quite the private person. And I would like to say humble enough to where I don't really like to take credit for any of that stuff. A lot of people talk to me and they sometimes give me praise like, oh, Ridge, you have so much on your plate. You know, you have your restaurant, you have escrow, you have all this kind of stuff. And I just tell them like, honestly, I just enjoy it. I don't really think of myself in some type of like fancy title or like high horse. I really just see myself as I'm just some regular dude just trying to make it out here and like help people. I'm going to be honest. Like when I was younger, I definitely, just like most people, I was immature. I was very arrogant, et cetera, things like that. And then as I got older, I realized that being just a more chill, more nice, humble person, et cetera, things like that was overall just better in all aspects, both in like my interpersonal relationships, business relationships, and even just personally inside myself, because then I didn't have to worry about like any like image or like my ego anymore. I could literally just live comfortably being me. So when people tell me, "Oh, Ridge, you own a restaurant," stuff like that, I'm like, "Oh no, I'm just the busboy." I just tell them I'm just a manager. That's all. Or like when people are like, "Oh, Ridge, like I can't believe you made it. It must be great being like an escrow officer and stuff like that." I'm telling them, "Oh, I just work in escrow. That's all I do. I just work in escrow." So yeah, you could just say I'm just a business person.
Yeah. Just regular dude
Just
trying
a
to
regular
make it in Hawaii.
Yep.
I like that. You and me both, man.
Yeah.
So in our courses, we say that escrow is a neutral third party that doesn't work in favor of the buyer or the seller. How would you define escrow?
I think that you described it perfectly in terms of like textbook definition. That's
Sure.
exactly what we are. So escrow is, like you mentioned, we are a third party, neutral to the transaction, and we manage both the money and the contingencies of the contract as they apply to escrow.
Okay.
So a lot of times people get confused and we might get a phone call and they might ask us all this stuff about their purchase contract, et cetera, things like that. And then although, of course, on a personal level, I know what's on that contract, like, L2 is like the termite, M2 is like the condo documents, et cetera, things like that. It's not really escrow's job to interpret the contract. And what I mean by that is not like we're being lazy or anything but it's really the agent that's supposed to tell us what does this mean on the contract. So if you put something in the Q section under special terms and you're like, the seller is providing a credit for something, right? And then there's some misinterpretation of it. It's really you as the agents that are supposed to negotiate and tell us like what that means, right? And we simply just follow your orders. So I always tell all my agents and I tell all the clients, you are all my boss. I work for you. You tell me what you want on your settlement statement. You tell me how to do this holdback agreement, et cetera, things like that, and I simply do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, quick question. What is the difference between escrow and title? Because most escrow companies, they have like, hey, so-and-so title and escrow, so-and-so title and escrow. You are an escrow officer, right? Are you a title officer?
No, so
Yeah, what is that? What's the difference?
So title and escrow. So what that is I guess you could really think about it as two halves of the same coin coming together, right?
Okay.
So I am the escrow officer. Now, you in the transaction, if you look on your preliminary report, it'll also say that there is a title officer. In this case, quick shout out to my title officer. I love her. She's really nice. Liz Iglesias. Love you, girl. But what the title officer really does is they are more so like the encyclopedia of like all this knowledge of essentially all of like liens, encumbrances, and essentially the laws of Hawaii really in particular and what it takes to get the transaction recorded. And another way to think about title, I guess, to maybe make it a little bit easier for people to understand, a lot of people know the loan officers, right? And loan officers are always like, oh, I need this document and I need to send it to underwriting.
Okay.
And they're always talking about their underwriter. So the way you could think of like my title officer is they're kind of like my underwriter.
Okay.
So to kind of, I guess, connect the bridge, right, is the escrow officer is kind of similar to the loan officer. We are the person that brings in the business, right? We're the one that goes out in their market, reaches out to the clients. In terms of like our back office work, we're mostly the ones that basically gather all the documents, right? Talk about like the vesting, get all the invoices, interpret the contract as it applies to escrow, et cetera, things like that. And I like to really think of myself as like this little foot soldier, and I just run around basically gathering information and conveying information to all the parties. And essentially when it comes to like the title officer, when you get a job in a title and escrow company, they're basically going to kind of determine two things. Are you more of an introvert? Are you more of an extrovert? If you're a little more extroverted, they want you more on the escrow side, the client relations part, right?
Okay.
That's where they put me. If you're more of an introvert and you're really good at reading and you don't really want to necessarily be too front facing, then they're going to put you in title.
That's very interesting. I've never heard that distinction before. If you were to put it in restaurant terms, would you call it like front house, back house, or?
Essentially, yeah. So basically, front house, back house. So, like I said, the title officer a lot of times, if you talk about escrow, sometimes not getting credit for the work, like the title officer, really, like nobody ever sees them. Nobody knows who they are.
Nobody knows who they are.
Yeah, they're just like this, almost like this imaginary person in the back that just like, just magically makes the transaction happen. But they're very important because they tell us what is needed to essentially clear a lien, and it's essentially my job as escrow to go hunt it down for them.
Yeah. So of my, let's say, 8 real estate transactions in the last few years, I have known every single escrow officer. I can name them. I can name all the escrow officers that have done my personal transactions. I cannot name a single title officer. Is there a way we can meet them? Are they worth taking out to lunch? We only take you out to lunch.
So I'm sure the title officers would love a free lunch, but like I said,
they're introverted.
They're very introverted for the most part. I mean, some of them have extroverted personality traits here and there, and they're actually very, especially the ones at Title Guaranty. They're like very nice, very chill people. But I'll tell you this much: they very much like to sit in the back, process their paperwork, and then just really like eat their lunch in peace.
Nice.
They really just like to keep things peaceful.
We'll send them a gift card.
Yeah, and they're not very confident. Yeah, send them a gift card. They're always ordering Starbucks, etc. Things like that. I know a few title officers. They're so introverted to the point where they order delivery almost every day to the office, because they don't want to go out there and go buy lunch. So they're either ordering delivery or they're bringing in home lunch, because they don't even want to go out and order food from McDonald's or something, at the fast food counter.
So here's a question we get a lot in the industry: why does somebody need title insurance?
So I guess the part about title insurance that people don't really think about is when people think title and escrow, they don't even really think about their title insurance policy, right? Okay. So the biggest reason why you get title insurance is essentially it's us guaranteeing you that we did the research for your property. So I always say this when I do all of my signings. The prelim report is essentially, if you could magically take, like, for example, this apartment unit and put it all into a bunch of boring legal words, that is what your prelim report is. It's your house transformed into words. Now, the title insurance part comes in because that's essentially us at Title Guaranty saying that everything on this prelim report and every research that we did is true. And we are insuring it. So if some random person out of the blue comes to you and says, Kaleo, Ridge was not allowed to sell you the property. Ridge did not own that property. This is like land.
Ridge was a tenant.
Yeah, Ridge was a tenant, and this is fraud, etc., things like that. Then essentially what happens is Title Guaranty or whoever your title company is, they step in, and we essentially handle that issue for you, right? And luckily for everybody, once you get the title insurance policy the first time, once you close your transaction, it's not like, like your car insurance policy or anything like that where you need to pay a premium every single year. It's pretty much with you through the life of however long you own the property. And the only time that it changes is if you sell the property or if title transfers over to somebody else. So that's the nice part about title insurance. But I think that is the most important part. And just kind of quickly to touch on, this is mostly for like commercial stuff, but not really for like the residential people. But your title insurance policy is very important, especially on the commercial side when just there's all this money involved and there's all these different rules and regulations of how you can use the property, et cetera, things like that. And even like, especially when people get business loans, like the lenders for those commercial loans will want certain endorsements on those to protect them against maybe like environmental use, et cetera, things like that. Something that I just learned when I was in the commercial department. But yeah, your title insurance policy is quite important in simply just protecting you as the owner from anybody that wants to make claim to your property.
Yeah. When people ask me, I have a very short answer. When people ask me the question, why do I need title insurance? If I'm in sales mode, I'll give them a very simple answer. You tell me if I'm wrong. Without title insurance, you can't get a loan. Is that true?
With that is without a doubt true, because your lender is going to want you to get title insurance. And when you use a lender and you get a loan, they also have lender's insurance that gets worked into that policy.
Are you saying there's two policies when you get title insurance?
If you get a loan, yes.
Yeah.
So that is to protect the lender in case you do anything that you're not supposed to with the title of your house. So the lender, because Kaleo, I don't got $1 million to lend out to anybody.
Okay.
I don't got $1 million to lend out to anybody. The bank does. So regardless if the bank has the money, if they're lending you $1 million, if you was to lend out $1 million to somebody, you would want insurance saying that you're gonna get that money back and that whoever you're lending the money to is not gonna be doing some very gray area or not so legal things with the title or with anything with that property, right?
Right.
So yes, you cannot get a loan or a mortgage without getting title insurance and getting a lender's policy.
That's good.
Unless you go through some like hard money, like private lender or like some private funding, et cetera, things like that. All FDIC, your Bank of Hawaii, your Bank of Americas, your Wells Fargo's, all of that are not going to lend to you without title insurance.
Yeah. So I have this question, and I have an answer in mind, but I don't know if I'm right. We've already discussed that escrow is a neutral third party. Mm-hmm. Is title a neutral third party?
Very, very much so. So even more so, the title team, just like us, they do not take sides in the transaction.
Okay.
It's really just their job to do the research on the property, generate the prelim report, tell us what is on that prelim report that is going to prevent us from insuring them or prevent us from transferring clear title, and it's our job to go and hunt it down. Respectfully, title more or less could really not care about what each side wants in terms of like the contract. In fact, actually the title company, or sorry, the title officers don't even really look at the contract at all. They don't really, they don't really look at the contract at all. They'll look at like the very basics and the very general things on the contract, but they're even more neutral than we are, to the point where they really just see the transaction from just like this small little, like almost like window glass, and they really just mostly care about like, can we insure this property? Is there any risk to us insuring this property? Mm-hmm. And is there any risk to us insuring the buyer and seller in this transaction. That's really all they care about. Your purse, of course, if you if you got a bunch of unpaid HOA liens and a bunch of like unpaid tax liens, et cetera, things like that, and you owe the IRS like $100,000, of course they're going to see that, but title's not going to judge you for it.
So this last 2 weeks, if you're not in the real estate industry, you might not know, First American Title got completely shut down for about 2 weeks, the end of December and the beginning of January. Not throwing any shade on them. Apparently it happens a lot. It happened to Fidelity. It happened to Title Guaranty. How does a data breach happen in title and escrow?
All right. So this actually might be a little bit more of a long-winded answer.
Okay.
So I guess before I even get to that question, so we actually have been doing a lot of training on these types of fraud and security breaches, et cetera, things like that. And something that corporate has really been advocating because, because essentially because these fraudsters, these hackers, et cetera, things like that, it all comes down to money at the end of the day. They're trying to get access to the money. So they've obviously thought of many different ways, and they've realized the title and escrow companies are the ones with all the money because they're the ones that send out the money, right? They're the ones that make sure everybody gets paid. So corporate has been really advocating to be very vigilant because we are essentially the targets. So all the title companies are basically have a big red target on their back from all these fraudsters. And I guess now to touch up on your question, so how does the security breach happen? So there are many ways that it can happen. The most common way is through different types of phishing and like online methods. So any type of fraudulent emails, fishy links, et cetera, things like that. And I guess to a very lesser degree, if someone gains access to or physical access to our, what we call, at least for me, because Title Guaranty is under Fidelity National Financial FNF. So I'm going to refer to them as FNF.
Oh, okay.
So Fidelity National Financial FNF, if they get a hold of like an FNF approved piece of technology, AKA my laptop or my cell phone. So you can do it physically, you can do it electronically, but most times it's like the electronic method. So it could be simple as, and it just takes one person really. It could just be one person, right? Like you get a fishy email, you click the link, right? And then you don't know what you clicked on, and then now this fraudster essentially has access to the information on your laptop. I used to be into computer games and stuff like that when I was a little bit younger, and essentially they have these different software programs that allow them to have access to everything that's on your computer. It's like basically installing a security camera inside of your laptop. So whatever you're browsing, they basically have like, they could see what's on your screen, kind of like how, like if you used to screen share your screen on like a Zoom call, they essentially can see that. They have what we call key logging technology. So anything that you type, right, it'll show what keys you're typing, et cetera, things like that. So that's really how they get a hold of this information. And the way that they kind of access like the critical information is they just wait for you to start working, right? They just wait for you to start working, right? And because we work with social security numbers, because we work with money, et cetera, things like that, that information is on our laptop. And then if you have a security camera, of course, and you're screen sharing, if I type someone's social security number into their file, you can see their social security number, right? If I get a copy of a check for like a earnest money deposit or like funds to close, they could see what account it came from, right?
Wow.
Et cetera, things like that.
So how do you guys remedy, because it happens out there, and whenever I get the call like, hey, we've had a data breach, my first question is like, am I going to lose my money, or are you going to lose my money? I'm like, well, no, everything's fine. We've shut everything down. What goes into like remedying this?
So the first thing, of course, is obviously to ensure that everybody's information and money is secure. So the nice thing about it is and I can't speak on all title companies, right? Because I don't work for every single title company.
Sure.
I only work for Title Guaranty. But at Title Guaranty, so all of even for us, a lot like all the wires and stuff that come in, the information is essentially sent, or at least the majority of it censored out. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
So the only people that can actually see like that physical account information is our accounting department, and then of course the banks. So when a security breach happens, we first make sure that the money is secured and everything like that. The next thing is of course protecting people's personal information. So I guess to make kind of like an analogy and make it very simple to understand is like, let's just imagine that like there's this pipe, like, like a plumbing pipe, for example, right? So just like the pipes in your house, right? Like, let's just say like there's a pipe that connects your house to the sewer, right? For example. So the way that essentially like a title company laptop works is instead of having a pipe that connects to like the public sewer, we essentially have a private pipe that maybe might lead directly to like the water treatment plant directly.
Okay.
So it doesn't interact with anybody else's, I guess, sewage, right?
Wow. Okay.
So that's kind of like my first analogy. So the first thing that we do, so now there's basically this pipeline that leads from the water treatment company to your house, right? So just imagine that is my laptop connecting to FNF and Title Guaranty's network. Now let's say security breach happens. Essentially what the treatment plant or FNF, our title company, does, get rid of the whole pipe. We're not going to use that pipe anymore at all. And then we essentially build a new system from the ground up, and essentially building an entirely new pipe connecting FNF to my laptop, just like connecting a brand new, completely new pipe from the house to the water treatment plant, right? And people might think to themselves, well, Ridge, if you just build a new pipe, can't someone just do the same thing again? In theory, yes, but just like we hope that when things like this happen, when mistakes are made, we improve on it, right? We get better. So we build a better pipe. We build different things to filter the sewage out, right? I guess I'm no plumber, so I can't really like think of an exact thing, but we essentially put more filters in place to prevent those things from happening. So now, for example, at Title Guaranty, we have two-factor authentication, and not just like receiving like like a text message or anything like that. Like my phone over here is now a company protected phone.
Oh wow.
Right? So I couldn't use my personal phone to authenticate myself on FNF's network. I need to use an approved device by them. So now we essentially have two literal physical technological pieces to authenticate ourselves. So first I got to go on my laptop, log in through there. After that, it's going to send it to my company approved phone for me to access it. So nobody can like hijack my phone number or anything like that. And just so you know, even on the phone, they have like password requirements for the phone. So I guess to come back to, like I said, come back to your question about what we do to prevent all that kind of stuff is just a multitude of things in a nutshell. So obviously just completely rebuilding the pipeline and like the system that connects us to the FNF network. And then of course, putting different filters in place, like the two-factor authentication, stronger encrypted passwords. And then even on even in our emails, there's a stronger filtration system. In fact, actually, it's got to the point where I had to tell some clients, like, hey, I'm not getting your email. And they're like, Ridge, what are you talking about? I emailed you, et cetera, things like that. We actually have like a quarantine folder where if depending on which email you sent it from, right? Like depending on like, I guess the security parameters of your personal email, like if you sent me an email from your personal email, depending on the security parameters of there, it might get thrown in my quarantine because they might think that you're trying to like, scam or like fish or like try to get me to click on some like fishy links. And so even our own emails now, for some of them, I have to filter them before it even touches my inbox. So just like I said, just a multitude of things, basically trying to put in as much firewalls and filters to filter out all of the junk. Now, in terms of obviously like the physical portion of someone like stealing your laptop and like, or like stealing your phone, et cetera, things like that. Yeah. Like I said, that's why we have 2 devices now. So if someone might steal my laptop, but if they don't have my business phone, right, they can't use any other TG phone. They couldn't go to a TG office and use a TG phone there. They couldn't steal my branch manager's phone and use her phone. Like they have to use my phone. But obviously that comes down to just you as an individual just being responsible and not leaving like, your laptop in like your front seat where it can be seen or something, or just like leaving your belongings unattended in like a Starbucks or something,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You touched earlier on about the concept of Pono. And so I just wanted to give you a chance to talk about what you shared with me earlier off camera, what Pono means to you.
So just like we talked about Pono, me being born and raised in Hawaii, there's a part of me, while I might not be native Hawaiian, I like to say I'm a local boy. I'm a local guy. Yeah. And definitely, of course, just like with people born and raised here, some of that Hawaiian culture is kind of like ingrained in you, just from both like the education system to just the friends and family and the people you interact with every single day growing up. So Pono for me, I always try to simplify it down so that way I can really grasp the concept. But it first comes down to the idea of just respect. And what I mean by respect is respect for people as individuals, but also just respect for everything around you. Like we talk about like the land, your belongings, your people, of course, your own emotions, respecting yourself, right? So I think that a lot of people sometimes, when they don't understand that Pono can be applied to everything in life, and that idea of respect can, be applied in everyday situations, whether big or small. And the other part of it comes down to responsibility. The idea that you being Pono is kind of your responsibility, right? Taking accountability of your actions, how you treat, like I said, how you treat the land, how you treat your own home, how you treat your friends and family, your business relationships, all that kind of stuff. So for me, Pono always comes back to simply just ultimately being a responsible, respectful, and just good human being, right? I don't want to go off on a tangent, so I just kind of want to say something really quick that, I feel a lot of times in maybe the place we live in now, a lot of people lack a little bit of compassion, in this day and age. And it kind of makes me sad. I think if people just had a little bit more compassion or a little bit more Pono, the world would be a lot better place.
Yeah. Reason we touched on that earlier, we were talking about the Hawaii state motto, Ua mau ke eo, wakaina i ka pono, and that was penned by King Kaui Keauli, King Kamehameha III. And I don't want to get into the big history of it because I might get my facts wrong, but essentially the Hawaiian Independence Day came about when first King Kauikeaouli had given up the sovereignty of the nation to the British crown for a time because the livelihood of the Hawaiian people was threatened by either a British admiral, rogue warfaring British person. And in order to avoid loss of life, the king said, we're going to give up the sovereignty of the nation to the British crown, and we will await the righteous judgment. The righteous judgment being, hey, we are correct in this, and we are being illegally threatened. And for about 5 months, the sovereignty of the Hawaiian nation was yielded to the British crown. And then the queen looked at the case and she said, this is unjust. And so the righteous judgment is to give the sovereignty of the Hawaiian people back to King Kamehameha III. And that's why Hawaiian Independence Day is celebrated to this day, is when the ea of the Aina was restored to King Kamehameha III and the Lahui. And that's how the saying "Ua mau ke ea o ka Aina I ka Pono" came about. But he also said something that's very near to my heart as an educator, because he was very focused on the education of the people. If anybody knows anything about Hawaiian history, they know that the kingdom was 98% literate during his reign. And he put so much of an emphasis on that. He'd said, and I don't know the Hawaiian words, but I know the translation, which is, my kingdom will be an educated kingdom, and the righteous man is my man. And his mentality behind that was, if we can educate the people, then they will have a sense of righteousness. And the word pono, it carried a lot of kauna to it at that time. It wasn't just the righteousness as we know it, like a moral or a ethical righteousness, but it also was a form of wisdom, right? And it was a form of hardworkingness. And when you bring that concept into factoring in who is having the sovereignty over the land, I've experienced in my life, and I've observed, when people live in righteousness, they are rewarded with the fruits of righteousness. And when people live in unrighteousness, the fruits of righteousness is taken away, right? The ea is taken away. The sovereignty over the land, the sovereignty over the life is taken away through unrighteousness, and that is the fruit of unrighteousness. But our mission at Hawaii Institute of Real Estate, and thank you so much for being a part of it as a guest speaker, is real estate literacy for all. And we're actually expounding on that right now. Is we want people to learn about real estate because we want them to be able to access the land as educated people and becoming pono, right? Pono with the moral righteousness, but pono with the wisdom, and pono with the hard work. And I'm so glad to have a kindred spirit walking along, and we're happy to partner with you at Hawaii Institute of Real Estate. Is there anything else, any parting thoughts that you want to send out into the ether before we sign off?
No, I guess just to touch up on just what you were saying. First of all, thank you, and I really appreciate it. I know we talked off camera about I like working with people like you that are good people, very busy, very great business mind, etc., things like that. But I'm in total agreement with that. Where in a similar way, I always talked about like education is very important, and I know we mentioned this off camera, but if everybody could be more educated in at least in the real estate industry, et cetera, things like that, because I'm sure that you know, and we both know, a lot of great people, like local people that get priced out of Hawaii, et cetera, things like that. And don't misunderstand. Like, of course, like if there's Pono people that want to move to the islands that are going to have respect and, like I said, be a Pono person, then they're more than welcome to, and we want those people here. And if whether they're coming from somewhere else or they're born and raised here, if we can educate them on real estate and how to take care of the land, then, like how I mentioned, if the world was a little bit more if everybody had a little more compassion, etc., things like that, the world would be a better place, right? But me and you are, as we said, we're just business guys trying to make it out here in Hawaii, and we can only influence so many people at one time. But I really think that's like a great start, and it's kind of one of those, like, you got to take, the first step's always the hardest, and you got to take that first step, right, to see the change that you want in the world, right? Be the change that you want to see, So I really just want to thank you again, of course, for having me. And then really crazy how it just kind of comes full circle in that, how I guess a lot of our ideas are, I guess, like very similar. They coincide with, I guess, like the same type of ideal and belief of just like just trying to making the world a better place, with what we can do and in our own industry. It kind of starts with just us first, and then obviously those right around us, and then hopefully it just has like that nice like ripple effect, and you kind of pay it forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, thanks so much, Ridge Vuong with Title Guaranty, for joining us on the HiRealty podcast. I never know how to sign these things off, but let's be educated and let's be Pono. Aloha for now.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody live Pono.